Welcome to It's Later Than You Think, the podcast about living in the moment, enjoying the ride, and making the most out of our lives. I'm your host, Patrick Ailshire, a 40-something-year-old Wisconsinite, sharing my experiences and encouraging you to rethink time, purpose, and everything in between. Let's make the most of right now. Hey, what is up? How are we doing today? You feeling good? I know we ask that question a lot in passing. Hey, what's up? How are you? It's generally just some pleasantries. But I'm actually curious, how are you doing today? You having a good day? If so, that's awesome. If not, I hope things are able to turn around for you at some point. I'm going to ask you a question to start. Are we living lives today that our future selves would be proud of? Or would they be mournful about? And I want you to think of another question. When it's later than you think, that's pun intended, what really matters? Our topic today is on regret, or specifically focus on the regrets of the dying. You may have heard of this memoir. Started as an article that was written. You may have heard of this concept, but I want to mention Bronnie Ware, who is a palliative nurse from Australia, who famously wrote about the top regrets of the dying. These patterns showed up across different cultures, ages, and backgrounds. She worked in this field for many years, wrote a memoir about it. It caught on, and that, again, led to her writing the book. So what I thought we would do today is go through the 5 examples that she shares, and I want you to think about those. I'm going to add in a little bit of my thoughts and input, and hopefully you walk away with some knowledge, some ideas, some thoughts that maybe you hadn't considered, so that you can go and live your life to the fullest, to not have regrets or as many regrets or particular regrets that many do when they are facing a certain end of their existence or death. The regrets we will be discussing that were quoted in this memoir, there are top 5 that were written about, and we will walk through each of those. Before we get into the regrets themselves, I do want to take a moment to just think about the phrase, regret. Have no regrets, or I do regret something. That whole concept is interesting, where you hear the phrase, oh, I live my life with no regrets. And that's easy to say, but I have trouble believing that, because there's clearly things that I know I've done that I wished wouldn't happen. So I can say like, oh, I regret doing that or thinking that. I mean, that's just kind of human nature, and it's easy to, think about and look back on. Now, you don't want to harp on that. You want to be able to learn and grow from those choices that you made, whether they're mistakes or regrets, and you learn from it and you hope to do better the next time. But I think the phrase no regrets itself is, kind of go with the flow and, don't worry too much about what happens. But if we look at the concept of regrets, I think it does make sense, and I would be shocked if anyone who is anywhere in their adulthood right now that doesn't have at least one or a handful of regrets that has happened to them, whether it's, again, something they've said, something they've done, something they didn't do, which is going to be something we'll get into in a little bit later here. So something to ponder and think about when we go through this list. With that said, we'll get into the top 5. And I'm going to read these, but no particular order necessarily. Number 1, I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This is so big to start off with. So many times, I think what we struggle with is societal pressure and perhaps that fear that is steering our directions. Are you living the life that you want, or are you doing it because that's what you think should happen? Whether it's a career choice that you made early on, you're following in the footsteps of someone else. Maybe it's the place that you live in. You think that, well, I'm an adult. I need to have a house with a yard. I should probably have kids because I know my parents wanted grandkids. Are you doing what's right for you? Fear comes along with this as well, where you don't want to step out of your comfort zone. And I'll allude back to the phrase I've used many times on here, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And for some people, they just can't fathom actually going ahead and doing that. But that's where you have to challenge yourself. We want life to be comfortable. We want good things to happen, but it's not always going to be good. Things are going to happen that challenge us, that are frustrating, that are sad, that are depressing. However, we want to keep going forward and, again, taking things in stride. When you complete something that's difficult or challenging, it really can help you with your confidence and know that you're able to overcome those odds and those things that were giving you a little bit of pushback. So I would say, as far as living that life true to yourself, be yourself, be authentic. Don't worry about what other people think. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. This is another really strong one. It really, I guess, depends on, what field you're in. Because some occupations, some career choices are going to require some more effort, some more time. Does it always have to be that way? That's, I guess, up for you to decide. I think if you're, again, in a certain job or career that requires long hours, that requires overtime, that requires you to do more than that 40-hour a week, then maybe that comes with the territory. But also, you have to think about burnout. Are you enjoying the work that you do? Do you like being busy to work those 60 to 80 hours? Me? No way. I have very little interest in going above and beyond my 40-hour work week. I've done that before. When I was teaching, it was always more than 40 hours. It was 40 hours at work. It was 35 hours in front of the kids, 5 hours of prep, of getting your life in order in the classroom. But then it was beyond that. It was the lesson planning. It was the grading. It was coming in on the weekends to knock out some things. It was parent-teacher conferences. It was emails. It was a lot of extra commitment that went over that 40 hours. And as most of you know, which unfortunately I don't think is ever going to change, at least not in my lifetime, is that they're severely underpaid educators. And we could go down a rabbit hole here. Don't ever come to me and say, oh, well, the teachers have the summer off, because I'm going to end that conversation really quickly. But I digress. We still live in this workaholic culture. According to Biz Journals, 62% of U.S. employees did not use all their PTO in 2023. And that's a figure that has nearly doubled over the past 4 years. This unused PTO amounts to approximately $312 billion in lost benefits annually, averaging just under $3,000 per employee. According to Eagle Hill Consulting, 48% of workers anticipate not using their full vacation allowance by the end of the year. Again, this is most likely from 2024. 6% of employees reported taking no vacation days at all in 2023. Younger workers, particularly those aged 21 to 34, tend to take about 1 week less vacation annually compared to employees over 55. Women take 10% less PTO than men, and 32% of remote workers find it challenging to take time off. And that, again, is from Corporate Wire. So those numbers are quite alarming, and it's unfortunate that people think that their workload is too much to take PTO, or that they feel they owe it to the company. I don't know. It's too bad, and I'm hoping those numbers continue to go in the right direction, where more people are using all of their benefits that their company offers. Going to the third point. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. This can tie into emotional repression. People don't feel that they can say what's on their mind. This can tend to be fairly isolating when you don't feel that you either have someone to talk to, or that you don't think you can share what's eating at you, what you have deep down. I think that the older we get, maybe the easier it is to talk about things. And early on, where we don't have either the skill set, or we don't think that it's important to bring up, whatever that may be, and that we can bury those thoughts. I mean, we won't go too much into this, but you think of the mental health kind of epidemic that we've got of, people struggling to be open about the things that are bothering them, that their feelings and emotions, and you want people to be able to reach out for help, and that there are people there that are willing to listen. So I want you to think about this question. What unsaid thing is weighing on you right now? Do you have anything that you would have loved to get off your chest? Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you need to call up the kid that you picked on in third grade, but maybe there's something that's current right now that you really should open up about. Tell someone something, how you feel, or something that's been bothering you. Maybe you've got something, maybe not. Maybe you've already learned that you think that it's always important to say what's on your mind and to tell others how you feel. The fourth point of top regrets. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. This happens over many different instances throughout our lives. The friends we had when we were adolescents, maybe those we made in high school, those that we met in college, those that we became friends with as adults, whether it was through work, whether it was through a social league, whether it was through our partners. This is going to happen. There's going to be kind of that ebbs and flows of those friendships. And when your friends start to get busy with their own lives, whether they're having children or they're tied up in just whatever the day-to-day life, it can be hard to keep in touch. Now, fortunately, with technology and social media, it can be easier, but at the same time, it can be also somewhat isolating, especially if you are relying just on that social media to keep in touch with people. Between texting and calling and all the other avenues to, reach out, it's important to figure out which friends of those do you want to continue having a relationship with as you get older. I think having a smaller friend group can be good as long as especially if you're close friends that maybe, months can go by where you don't see each other or talk to each other. But when you get together, it's like you haven't skipped a beat. Having X amount of Facebook friends or Instagram followers is neat, but are those actually friends, or are those acquaintances because you know about them because you follow what they're doing on their social media? But when the time comes to have someone to reach out to go out to dinner with, or to grab coffee with, or drinks, or whatever, go to the game, who are you able to reach out to? Is it just family? You still have some friends you keep in touch with? Those are the ones that you want to keep at your side. I would suggest that you think about that one person maybe you haven't talked to in a while. Just send them a text, send them an email. Hey, just was thinking about you. Want to see how things are going. Hope you're doing well. It could be something as simple as that. The fifth and final point I'd like to share. I wish I let myself be happier. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. We create our own happiness. So that happiness is a choice. It's not a condition. I think a lot of times people defer their own joy until it's too late. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I lose 15 pounds. I'll be happy when I have a house. I'll be happy when I get a promotion. If you're constantly telling yourself you're going to be happy in the future when you make this move or that move, you may never get there. Circumstances happen in life, and it's important to look around at what you've got now in front of you. And maybe things aren't going very well. However, find that silver lining. Even if it's just one minor thing that can bring a smile to your face. Put things in perspective. Things could always be worse. Yeah, things could always be better too. Yet I would challenge you to think about what can make you happy now. What makes you happy in the current situation that you're in? Now, if you're unsure if you have regrets, or you feel that you have so many, you're not sure where to start. I mean, we can't go back in time and redo everything. And maybe there's some things that you aren't ready to openly share with others or even to yourself. I can go ahead and share an example of one thing that I'd say I regret, just knowing that it's most likely not something that I'll experience again, just as far as kind of where I'm at in life. So the example I'm going to share, back in 2014, I had moved to Austin, Texas with a partner of mine. And we moved down there. It was really great to experience living in a new state, being from Wisconsin and living here my whole life. It was very exciting, a little bit nerve-wracking. After a year of living down there together, the relationship was not working for us, and we called things off. We still were roommates for an extra 4 months since we had a long lease on our apartment. And fortunately, we had a 2-bedroom place, and we were much better roommates than we were in a relationship. And once the lease was just about up, I had decided to move back to Wisconsin. I had all my friends and family here. I wasn't exactly sure where my career was going, which was in education at the time. And I moved back. Now, I look back at the timing of that, and I'm really glad I did, because there were some other things that happened. I mean, I was able to get a job right away, fortunately, but there was just some other life circumstances that happened that I'm glad I was back in Wisconsin for. In hindsight, I also wish at the same time that I could have gotten my own place if I would have had the money, if I would have had the patience to try to look for another career or job, and that I would have been able to experience living in Austin for another, let's say, year. Because when you move somewhere new, yes, you get to experience a lot of what's going down there, but at the same time, life gets in the way where you've got to go to work. You got bills to pay. You've got, you get in the habit of kind of hanging around where you live versus being able to travel a little bit. And so part of my one regret is that I didn't give the city more of a chance after the relationship ended and kind of wanting to go back to what I was comfortable with, which was living up in Wisconsin. So that's just one example I can think about that stands out in my mind, but I don't lose sleep over it. I am glad I was able to at least experience living away for at least a year and a half, but something I just, that pops up every now and then. Before we wrap things up, I want to give you another challenge. I want you to pick one regret. If you can think of one, and make a small rebellion against it this week. What can you do? Can you talk about it out loud? Maybe you can't go back and change the past. However, is there something you could do to help you feel a little bit better about it? Mine, with my example, is just talking about it, like realizing it's like, oh, okay, that happens, and that's okay. It's in the past, and I can move on. But I want you to think about one regret that you might have. And as we know on this podcast, we say it's later than you think. But I also want you to realize that it's not too late yet. Things that you haven't done at this time. What are some things you can do so that you don't regret them later in life? We can't change the past, however, we can change our future. New episodes of It's Later Than You Think podcast arrive each and every Tuesday morning. You can find these on the podcast main page, rss.com. Otherwise, wherever you stream your podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, to name a few. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Take care.